What's up, movie maniacs? Your boy Ricky Grimes. I'm back. JR's back. Joe's back. This is Horror Fiend TV. Three corners of horror. JR, what up, brother?
Not much, man. Let's do this. This week we're doing a horror movie that's based on a disaster, but is it a disaster of a horror movie? I don't know.
We shall see. Joe, what up, Joe?
Well, it a little bit of a disaster. However, the people should have actually checked out Chernobyl Diaries just to maybe fine-tune things a little bit more. But, it's not all that bad.
And with that being said, we are talking about Ghost of Chernobyl, playing on Amazon Prime, also known as After Chernobyl. This film is directed by Igor Kinko and Maxim Litonovov. I'm sorry, they're Russian. But this it is a Russian film. But this is a found footage film. It's one that we're gonna dive into, and I'm gonna tell you right now from my reaction alone, I can't wait to hear what these two guys got to say about it. So JR, why don't you start this video for us right now? Discuss the plot of this film. Just get us up to date pretty quickly. It's pretty straight stuff.
Yeah,
man.
it's pretty straightforward. We have a young lady named Kate who she wants to visit her boyfriend Steve, who lives in a small village on the outskirts of Russia. So she convinces her friends, one of her friends, let's go, join me on this adventure to, be my boyfriend. And, they go there and you see a little quick thing of Russia there. And as they're there, basically, they decide they're going to go to Steve's village, and they jump in a car and then take off. Now, one of the cool things about this, I would say, is there's certain scenes in this movie where you get a little message in the bottom: radiation level, location. So just look at that throughout the whole movie.
Joe, real quick, these characters are some of the most invigorating characters I've ever seen on a film. Let's talk about it, son.
Well, I mean, you also forgot the one character in the beginning because this is a found footage. So there's Stalker, who was the one that says we found these tapes, and they're supposed to be American tourists. We're going to hit on that American part later on.
I'm glad you brought that up.
So we'll bring that on later on. Anyway, so as you just mentioned, all four of them, they're going to go on this little road trip. This is one of those movies where stupid mistake is made after stupid mistake. And Kate is, you guys saw how I felt about the little girl in Psycho Gorman. So Kate is the little girl of this movie for me.
Yeah, let me tell you something right now. Like, this film, I think it was trying to emulate Blair Witch Project when it came to these characters constantly yelling at each other. And yes. you would think, are they really friends? Do they know each other? Like, it's a constant, like, hitting it over your head consistently. And I'm going to tell you this right now. As soon as this film started, within the first few minutes, I was disconnected because of the bad CGI. And we'll get into that later. I just had to bring it out now in case I forget. But Joe, this is called Ghost of Chernobyl. And these characters in this film, I don't think they know what Chernobyl was. I don't know what, can you explain, just give us a quick breakdown of Chernobyl for us, for the viewers who don't know as well.
All right. Well, if some of you viewers don't know where Chernobyl is, then Pozor Tebe. Okay. Look that up. Pozor Tebe. Anyway, as Junior mentioned, these friends are actually heading for this little town called Pripyat. I might pronounce that wrong. Russian is really hard. But this is located next to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. And this is basically the location of the Chernobyl disaster. Mm-hmm. So these idiots in this place decided to run this test, and they changed a certain, I'm not an engineer, but basically from the gist of what I got, the changes they made created for the reactor to shut down. When the reactor shut down, the core melted down. Then you had explosions that basically ruptured the reactor core. And the rest is history. This whole entire zone is basically riddled with radioactivity. There was less than 100 deaths, and the area where this happened is known as the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, which Junior can talk about.
If you want to see a good movie, a good series that will give you better light on, the whole Chernobyl, there's actually the Chernobyl limited series, HBO Max. Excellent excellent
awesome
film. You have to watch that, and they will tell you every single mistake they did to cover up. Now, the exclusion zone was set up in 1986. It's a 30-kilometer radius around the remnants of Chernobyl. Now, this radius includes the rural marshlands, which is, it was the home of 120,000 people. It was between Chernobyl and Pripyat, and as well as you had like 187 smaller villages that were part of this zone. Now, these people were evacuated from the zone a little after the government realized what happened with the radiation leaking. Now, the radiation cloud actually went all the way to Norway, went all the way half across, Western Europe. So it affected a lot. But the thing about it is, which this movie kind of gives little hints of it, people actually went back. They went back to their villages because that's all they knew. That was their life. So they went back knowing the dangers that were within this exclusion zone.
It's very interesting too, because you mentioned the exclusion zone, and the characters do go. Well, they find themselves. Of course, the vehicle troubles. They're on foot now. They're on their way. Another thing I gotta say, I'm gonna be doing this a lot because this. I couldn't keep up with who was holding the camera. I mean, there's 4 characters. I don't know who was behind the camera. I was just so confused. I'm sorry, but they go to Chernobyl. We know that they don't know that because they're in this big abandoned area, right? They managed to get there, and they're constantly saying, "Where is everybody? What's going on?" Like, and I'm thinking to myself, they're in Russia. They must know they're closer to Chernobyl. Like, I just couldn't stop thinking about that. And then the group get chased by this ghost figure. JR, why don't you at least discuss this ghost? Why is it following this crew? And why is it a ghost to begin with?
All right. So before we go into that, because I'm going to give you guys a quick explanation. So there was glimpses of different occurrences that were happening when they were in the zone. You have, for example, when they're on the railroad tracks, that ghost train that goes right through them, and somehow I don't know where they ended up. They're on the tracks. Next minute, they're somewhere in the freaking on the floor or something.
Well, they got scared because they thought a train was coming, so you're obviously gonna want to jump out the way.
Well, but they were like right in the middle of
no, I know,
bridge,
but I looked at it. They all tried to jump, like basically, like their friend just got hit, jump.
All you see is the train come, and then all of a sudden the camera.
That was that guy Tom. Joe had texted me late night, and he was like, "This guy Tom, he's awesome. He's my favorite character." And I was like, "Really?" Oh, whatever.
Not to go back to.
I'm kidding.
No, no.
I hated that guy. So
oh my god. Oh my god.
Now to go back to what happened with this town. Now we get a flashback after Steve somehow drowned. I mean, he was in the water about this high, and he still. I don't know. That whole scene was just ridiculous. But they're mourning. Well, Kate's crying. She's blaming everybody for what happened to Steve or whatever, and then they hear like gunshots or they hear a man screaming. So they go and there's a scene where it goes into this flashback, these ghosts where you see an intercom going that, the soldiers are being told don't let anybody out of Pripyat and give them a warning shot in the air. And if needed, shoot them. So we get this scene of a woman with a child. So there, the guy shoots in the air, and all of a sudden the child gets shot, the woman gets shot. I'm telling you this for a reason now. So later on, we get basically all the people walking through the woods. So we are led to believe as the movie goes that woman is the actual ghost. And then when we realize the end was the actual ghost, and you're like, what the flying fuck? Seriously? Mm. So I'll let Joe discuss the ghost because that just pissed me off to the point where come on.
Well, I mean, this movie is kind of hard to really get all that deep in, but I thought that all those ghosts were just the ghosts of the people that were killed on the way, like trying to escape. Because what you ended up finding out is that the ghost is really a woman. It's a woman who ended up remaining behind. Because when they're showing you scenes, they show this little girl that they throw chemicals on her. I don't know if you guys had noticed that.
The little girl? That was
the little girl. Okay,
little girl.
So Stalker ends up talking to the grandparents of this little girl. So when you're seeing those scenes, the problem is the way that it was just kind of chopped. You're supposed to look into it, and this movie's gonna get a low rating from me, but I really had to pay attention to notice this part on it. So this is where it gets a little credit from me. The little girl they're showing all the experiments of, I think they were checking to see what the radiation may have done to her. And you see the chemical being thrown. She didn't end up getting killed. She was left behind. Mm-hmm. And so she's basically is living as a ravenous person off the land, you know. Stalker ends up trying to basically prove that the ghost, you know, because I mean, we didn't talk about the fact, you know, I know it's a movie that doesn't involve a lot of diving into, but you know, basically they all encounter this ghost, and the ghost does them all in. But like I said, it's a young woman at this point who has radiation poisoning. You know, Stalker ends up finding her. She attacks him. You can see that she's disfigured, and so yeah, I mean, so it's the ghost of Chernobyl. But now you're dealing with it's actually somebody who is from radiation poisoning, which is why I was bringing up Chernobyl Diaries, because Chernobyl Diaries had to do with radiation poisoned people and animals, you know, besides the fact that, you know, in the end, they actually die because they go to the core, which kind of anyway, we'll talk about it towards the end on that part.
Now, this film was driving me crazy as I'm watching it because just like I said before, from the beginning, the constant intercutting between what's happening and like other parts of the film that they're showing you that's going to happen later, but it's showing you now, and the intercutting of the ghosts in between, which again looks horrible. And I love found footage. I know JR, that's your favorite genre, and Joe, you like a good found footage film.
I do.
But this film, to me, just like we did Paranormal Activity, it breaks the rules to me because all this intercutting, this film, and I got it in my notes, it felt more like a video game, or a music video rather. This felt like a music video over a found footage film because there's too much editing and too much special effects, and it's just they're trying to do way too much with it. With the story like this, which on paper is not a bad story, they just the way they filmed it, the technique, they tried too much with it, and there's a lot of stuff in it that I didn't like. But there is stuff that was, in my opinion, not that bad. So yeah, this film does a lot of bad, but it's got some things that are good, in my opinion. We'll see what you guys think. Joe, why don't you tell us what worked for you in this film and what didn't work for you in this film?
All right. So off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to start when I'm going to watch these movies and we're doing them, realize what the producers, filmmakers, directors, what they were working with. I looked this up. This movie was $100,000 to make. I mean, I think Blair Witch was $12 million. So the budget wise, they had a small budget to work with. The scene where the windows were all blowing out when they're running through trying to get out of there, I actually thought that was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I mean, considering it for me, it felt like what the 70s and 80s special effect people would have had to pull off to do. What did not work for me in this movie is the fact that these people were supposed to be playing Americans, and it was very clear that they were all Russians.
You know, it's funny when I did afterwards to do a little bit of research. I went to IMDb, and when I saw the cast, they're all Russian. I'm like,
you didn't like what? You didn't at all like when they were talking.
I didn't care, man. I honestly didn't like. No.
I mean,
for one thing, Steve and Kate, to me, there was no chemistry. They didn't even feel like a real couple whatsoever. And the fact that she went nuts after Steve drowned. Yeah.
Right. Kate is annoying. She's the little psycho Gorman girl in this movie. Yeah, that was my whole thing. Like, just I felt that they ended up portraying Americans as caricatures. Not just Americans. I know we're living in such a PC world right now. So hopefully, whatever way you guys are going to take it, I don't mean anything wrong, but they made my white friends look bad because, most of my white friends don't talk like this. Tom, just the way that he spoke, and it was in and out. It was this weird, he sounded like he was kind of hoodish and then, but, a little Americanish. And then Kate yelled all of her lines. She never spoke. You said it earlier. That's why when when you mentioned that, I smiled and I wanted to wait because this is what I want to, when we got to the end, is that she yelled everything and it just got annoying. And, you know, when it was done in Blair Witch, you know, to some people, when you watch the movie over and over, then you can start feeling like her screaming could be a little annoying.
This is the difference, real quick. Blair Witch felt real. Like,
right.
If I'm lost, we're going to be yelling at each other crazy. But this film, like I said before, it did too much to add too many special effects, intercutting, editing techniques. It didn't need any of that.
It was just, I mean, for me, it should have just been filmed in Russian or just dub it. Like, dub it, get some voice actors to come in here, because the people who did the voicing, that was probably one of the things that really, really killed me on this movie, is just, and especially Tom. Like, Tom just looked like a SNL character.
Yeah, he did.
You're one of your, you know.
He reminded me of Pete Davidson.
Yes.
Yeah, we mentioned
that's exactly who I was when I was watching that. Like, I could see Pete Davidson do it as a sketch. Like, yeah, no, I mean, that was, you know, again, I got low budget. It did have, for me, you know, and I didn't even hate the scene with the ghost coming through and they're walking through it.
I hated that.
See, I didn't hate it so much. What I hated was Kate kept screaming.
Like, let me ask you, if you're walking through the woods, right, and you see all that,
I go the other way.
Yeah, what these guys are like
I don't walk to it. You know, like they're walking away from a reason. You don't go that direction.
JR, I see you getting antsy over there, son. Let's get it. What you like, what you didn't like.
What I liked, and this is where I think the film missed it, is I like the fact that when they were walking through some of the buildings, it kind of went back to like if it was during like 1986, where, you know, where the people are walking through the buildings. I kind of liked that feel to it, because I like, because it was like, all right, you almost felt like you were there, you were part of, you seen the whole place, you know, like from the view of the time. Now, I didn't like the fact that they kept jumping all over the place, to the point. I mean, if you're gonna walk to a certain part where, let's say, I mean, look at the background. If you walk to a certain building that's famous, I would love to see how it would look back in those times, flashback till now. I mean, I don't feel like they had to show the ghost. I mean, she could have been basically like, remember, Blair Witch didn't really show
her. Saw her.
And they showed it. They showed them too much.
Too much. Like one cool scene. Which,
well, it wasn't a ghost though.
But just the way, like, I felt like you didn't need to show it. You could have had like a shadow figure, you know, like them freaking out. You know, what's that? Who's that? I mean, and for me, I think the guy at the beginning, the guy at the end, he should have been the main character in the film. He should have.
But then I got
no.
Read everything. Then I'm all set with it.
But I'm saying if he goes there and then basically starts doing an investigation, like maybe they could have changed the story that he heard these people missing, and he goes there, you know, and then, you know, missing Americans, who doesn't go crazy over that? So then you find the footage, takes the footage back, looks at the footage, talks about it, goes see the grandmother. I mean, it could have been a better storyline. I just feel like they, like you guys saying, they try to make it too Blair Witch. It didn't work. They showed the ghost, or I mean the woman, way too much. And one of the cool scenes I liked was when she threw I forgot who was out the window.
Yeah, actually,
Tom, your boy Tom.
That wasn't. I mean, it was clearly CGI.
It was clear CGI, but it was.
But for me, on a $100,000 budget, that was good CGI.
You know what I would have with that budget? You know what I would have done as a director? Forget the CGI. I would throw a puppet or mannequin or dummy out that window, because if you're doing found footage, right? The guys, you're holding a camera, right? You say you got your own camera, whatever. Someone drops a body, you're not gonna trail it from like,
yeah.
You're not gonna get a clear shot of it going down. It's gonna be kind of crazy. So a dummy with the right shots would have worked so much better than seeing this guy come. Whoa!
And he flipped. He went out the window, did a flip.
I got that in my notes too. That's in my notes.
Part. You did the
I
flip.
mean, mind you, I'm not saying it was a bad scene. That's one of my more, better scenes. I'm just saying I would have shot it differently. That's all I'm saying.
And the other part that killed me the most is how many times are you going to sit there and try to figure out who's after you? Oh, maybe it's the girl with the child. maybe we should go look for the child first and reunite. I mean, I know he was being sarcastic, but it was being brought up a couple times. You're like, I don't need to hear this, and especially the way you wrap the whole thing at the end. I don't know. It was just, it felt too confusing at times. They had something that could have worked really well. Like, we all agree if it had a bigger budget, I think it would have been a lot better. But it's just, I feel like they had so much and they crapped it up on the editing to try to put as much as possible, and it didn't give you anything clear. I mean, the best scenes was the freaking when they sat with the grandparents, because that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that felt real.
Yes, that felt so real.
That gave you the found footage realness.
Yeah, I mean, if they would have started with that in the beginning, maybe, I don't know, they could have did so much better with this.
That would have been a good lead in, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lead in with that, a lead in, and then making Stalker basically talking to them and then saying, this is why I talked to the grandparents. I found this video and now I'm going to y'all should have done that.
You mentioned the train scene. When the train came, as ridiculous as that was, I'm not gonna lie, I jumped.
Me too.
I don't know what it was. I was like, oh shit.
Me too.
So yeah, you know what? All right, they got me. So I'm gonna give them credit for that. The drunk scene, when they're all drunk and they're filming each other singing and just, being real people.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that as well. Again, they felt real. That was cool. The acting was so bad too. Like,
terrible.
There was one scene
caricatures.
Tom is like going nuts and just talking all this junk, and all of a sudden there's a noise comes out, and his line was, "Who was that?" Come on, man. It was so bad, but I laughed my ass off with that. And I gotta hear the window scene. You mentioned it when he flew out the window. The bad CGI again. I think this film, you mentioned the budget. This film could have been so much better. Take the intercutting out. Don't put the ghost in it. Let's just have the characters go into Chernobyl and don't make them stupid. Like, these characters, I don't understand. Maybe they're a young demographic. They don't know about Chernobyl. They keep asking themselves, where are we? Why did everyone leave? What's the hurry? There's no one here. They see all this radiation signs. All right, there's radiation. Holy shit, we're in Chernobyl. But no, there was none of that. So it made these characters feel so stupid. Especially Steve is Russian. He knows what the hell, he knows where they're going. Or even if you don't know where it's at, you should know you're closest to Chernobyl.
But you mentioned Steve's from Russia. He should have known where Chernobyl was.
That's my point. Yes, exactly.
So
exactly.
I mean, but the thing is, like I said, I think you guys missed that those intercutting scenes were meant to let you know that there was no ghost. It was a girl that was left behind, basically.
But how did all that get into the film then? Who, you know what I'm saying?
I guess yes.
Yeah,
I think they were trying. Yeah,
yes.
They were trying to make you understand why this twist is going to be coming up.
Like George Romero, during his later years, his films weren't the greatest, but I always appreciated something out of them.
They all have messages.
Diary of the Dead, right? This is found footage before they started making a lot of zombie found footage films, and he tried. It's not bad, but at least what he did right was the main character, as annoying as that character was. So at least she made a conscious effort to tell you, listen, we're gonna film this. We're gonna add music. We're gonna add a lot of dramatization because we want to scare you. We want to let you know this is what's really going on here. So they told you, okay, they're gonna heavily edit it. They're gonna heavily edit the found footage film, and this film has a lot of that intercutting in between. Like, so who's like they show the ghosts. Who's doing that? Who's editing? Who's putting it? Because obviously, spoilers. Nobody really survives this film. Am I right? Even Stalker. Even
nobody.
Stalker,
No, Stalker dies.
This is another thing. Stalker, you mentioned a good character. What does he do? He does the same. He goes out there by himself. Joe, please, tell me about it.
He puts a recording on, what was it? Was it a teddy bear or a doll?
It was her doll.
Her doll, a grandma's song.
That movie we just saw, he saw.
So,
how did he, all right, let me just go out there, put the doll out there, I'm going to record everything. I will be fine. Nothing's going to happen to me, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was a dumb move.
So let's close this out right now. We're gonna close this out. Any last thoughts, closing moments? If you got to say it, we're gonna say it now. JR, I'm gonna start with you. Looks like you got something to say. Say it now and give us your rating for this film.
Yeah, but to counter the whole person living in the village and ghosting. They screwed it up at the end because as she's listening to the thing, she goes like this with one hand. All of a sudden, everything goes static, and he's on the floor dead.
Oh, you know what I did like?
I mean that I'm wondering.
You brought us. Yeah, you reminded me.
Yeah.
The scene when Tom has the Super 8, right?
Yeah.
Another thing, I'm sorry, I got to get this in before we finish. This film crew had access, and that was really Chernobyl. They had access to the city, and you could tell they had access, but it was only for like a day maybe, and they were rushing to get shots.
Yeah.
Then they got the Super 8 camera, and
the same shot over and over is the problem.
Yes,
they kept shooting this almost the same building in different angles. They did not take advantage of what they had.
Let's say we're filmmakers and they give us access to Chernobyl with restrictions, obviously.
Yes.
I'm gonna get it as much raw footage as possible and forget the intercutting, the editing, the putting the ghosts within the film. Forget all that. You got access to Chernobyl. Like you could do so much with that, and they failed. Go ahead, Jay, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna give it like a 2.5. I mean, being so low budget, I kind of respect it, but I would just wish they had more money for it.
I'm in between a 1 and a 1.5. My love of these type of movies wants me to push me into a 1, but me realizing the limitations that they had to produce it, and me actually saying that right now. Just if I'm going to compare it to the money you got to put out a movie, I'll give it a 2.
I would hang out with Kate anytime over the girl from Psycho Gorman. So it's not the worst character I've seen on TV.
I might have to tell her to shut up a whole bunch of times or lower your voice. I'm Puerto Rican and you're louder than me.
Ooh, yeah, that's saying something right there. Hey, we're Ricans, we can say that. But yeah, the film it's not the worst film I've seen, and the reason why I get so upset because they tried too much.
Yes,
they tried to make it too fancy. Like I mentioned, watch it again. It's reminiscent of a music video and not a found footage film. So I'm gonna go 2.5 for this as well. So all right, guys. With that being said, this film again, not the worst, not the best. With the budget it had, I believe. If you got a low budget, that's not a bad thing because look at Blair Witch. Thank you again for joining us on Horror Fiend TV. I'm Ricky Grimes. We got JR. We got the man Joe. And we're going to say good night and thank you for joining us. Peace.